Schlieffen/Helmuth von Moltke. The Schlieffen Plan was the main strategy Germany had to take their desired territory in France. The Schlieffen Plan was a swift movement west from Germany, through Belgium, and into France. Schlieffen had hoped that, if the troops moved quickly, they would arrive at France in around 3 weeks. But what he didn't account for was the soldiers themselves. And this is where Helmuth von Moltke comes in. Moltke was supposed to lead the initial invasion of France, and to do this, he slightly modified the Schlieffen Plan. He failed to complete the initial invasion of France at the Battle of the Marne, which is what ruined Germany's hopes for a quick and decisive victory. The changes he made to the Schlieffen Plan happened to be one of the reasons the invasion failed, and as he struggled to control his forces, he would eventually be replaced. Paul von Hindenburg. Paul played some very important roles during the war. He came out of retirement during the war and ended up defeating the Russians at the Battle of Tannenberg. This resulted in a large capture of both artillery and prisoners of war. He helped in reinforcing the massive defensive line in the west, slowing Allied advancement. After some setbacks, Paul realized the war was lost, and recommended the Kaiser surrender. He is known as a hero even in defeat, because he admitted that Germany lost and needed to surrender. General Joseph Joffre. Joseph Joffre is known for his success at the Battle of the Marne. During the German initial westward strike, France and Britain saw more loss than Germany did. Joffre had a plan to regroup French and British forces, fall back, and launch a decisive counterattack. This turned out to be very successful for the Allies. It brought about the failure of the Schlieffen Plan and halted the German advancement. Although Joffre saw success at the Battle of the Marne, he saw great loss later in the war due to his offensive strategies, which led to heavy casualties. He was later removed in 1916, but will always be known as a national hero. Kaiser Wilhelm II. Wilhelm was the Emperor of Germany, otherwise known as the Kaiser. Before the outbreak of war, he seemed like a strong and intelligent leader. He promoted a strong German military and an expansion of the German navy, promised to give Austria-Hungary military support in their fight against Serbia, and made himself out to be aggressive against other nations in speeches and interviews. When war broke out, though, he seemed to be quite different. He was important leading up to the war, but when the war started, he turned out to be ineffective in forming war plans. The military high command took over strategy and operations, and because of Wilhelm's ineffectiveness, he was abdicated after the war. Raymond Poincaré. Unlike the German and Russian wartime leaders, Raymond didn't seem to care if his actions increased his power or public image, but wanted them to end the war and bring peace. He was an important figure in securing national union, improving alliances with Russia and Britain, and boosting morale during the war with frontline and hospital visits. He was also very firm on Germany during their peace negotiations. He made it clear that he was a strong and reliable wartime leader. Erich von Falkenhayn. Falkenhayn was meant to replace Moltke as German Chief of Staff, and he is known mostly for the Battle of Verdun. He had come up with the idea to attack Verdun, hoping that this would encourage the French to send and waste resources defending it. He intended to bleed France white, but ultimately failed. This battle saw great casualties for the French, but saw nearly the same amount for the Germans as well. The lack of success that his battle brought for the German military led to Falkenhayn's dismissal from Chief of Staff. Franz Ferdinand. Franz Ferdinand was the Archduke of Austria, the heir to the throne. Although he was not an important figure in the progression of the war, he was what started it. On the 28th of June, 1914, Franz Ferdinand and his wife were shot by a Serbian nationalist of the Black Hand, Gavrilo Princip.
Everything I love, bro. I'm the one that smacked
Franz Ferdinand.
that night when he got dropped. Ace had that money on his head.
Franz Ferdinand's death was the final spark that lit the flame of World War I, and Austria used his death as an excuse to send Serbia an offer. This offer was for the Serbian government to give control of their country to Austria within 48 hours. Because of the limited time of this offer, Serbia and Austria went to war, inviting in the majority of European powers. David Lloyd George. David was Minister of Munitions in 1915, and in 1916 became the Prime Minister. During his time as Minister of Munitions, he built new production facilities and implemented women into the production force. His contributions to the production of munitions significantly helped in the supply of troops. When he became prime minister, he helped unify the Allied command structure, which helped significantly in late war offensives. He was very innovative and successful in his military strategy, opening new fronts and challenging attritional war tactics. In summary, David was a strong and successful prime minister and contributed greatly to Allied success. Tsar Nicholas II. Nicholas was the Emperor of Russia. At the outbreak of war in 1915, Nicholas had hoped that if he took control of the Russian army, he might be able to boost morale despite his lack of experience at war. This instead resulted in tragic defeats, and because of his adherence to the autocratic rule, it also caused unrest in the Russian people. He thought he might be able to use this war to strengthen his power, but instead his actions resulted in loss, demoralizing troops, and the Russian Revolution. Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill served as both First Lord of Admiralty and as the Minister of Munitions during the war. His time as the First Lord of Admiralty was sort of a mixed bag. He knew exactly what the Navy needed, and he modified it. He encouraged naval aviation, submarines, and transitioning ships from coal to oil. He greatly improved the effectiveness of the Navy during his time leading it. He had a deep understanding of naval power, and he could accurately predict threats, but despite this, he saw only failure in the Gallipoli campaign. The Gallipoli campaign saw great loss for the Navy and led to Churchill's resignation.